When I was in college, I lived with my brother Brandon, who was at least 15 years older than me. He had a son named Ray who grew up to be such a very bad kid, always attracting negativity and being so pessimistic. Occasionally a compulsive liar. His mother Myra and my brother were divorced when Ray was only a fourth grader. There were these times Ray would lie so much to make him look innocent, playing the victim of every fight he creates for himself, or whatever trouble he gets into. That was his way of living to make him feel satisfied. He never wanted to share or help anyone when it comes to money. Support was his lack of power from my eyes watching him growing up. All Ray wanted is everything for himself when it comes to making decisions. Most times he would take advantage of people who were close to him, and most likely the ones who never knew he well. One day Ray asked me to take him out to the GameStop store to buy himself a Sony PlayStation 4 console. When we got there, he acted as if I was the only one with money coming to the store, when he said he'd buy it for himself in the first place. This is another way he appears sneaky and greedy. He picked up 2 games and the gaming controller. When we got to the cashier, I saw him at the back hiding his money into his pocket after he was counting it without knowing I actually saw him. He came up to me and acted like he didn't want to do anything about paying for the things. I thought he was my nephew, so I treated him nicely to buy everything for him. He's not the type of kid that would thank anyone or appreciate anyone when it comes to giving things to him. I thought being an uncle to him would make him at least respect me. On our way home, he argued with his father on the phone, calling his dad this and that, in front of me, using the most foul and hurtful words any son can never even say to his own father. I was really shocked and devastated to see my own nephew fight with his own father, who is actually my older brother. I had thought he said he'll be a good boy for now on once he gets his things from GameStop. He lied to me and then told me that he will only be good again to me if I hate my own brother with him and stop trusting Brandon. I can never imagine doing something evil like that for being my own blood. He told me he'll drive if we're going to talk like this all the way home. He did have a very short temper because his mother had it too. That's how my brother and his mother came to an end, and eventually had divorced after 15 years. On our way home on a rainy night, he was driving very fast, being too upset about arguing with his father. Ray was a person who did not know how to control his anger. I told him to slow down a few times. Then, coming to this red light, he pushes the gas pedal so hard to make the car go faster on purposely by ignoring the last second of the traffic yellow caution light, and he hits a big lady the second. I can hear the car squealing as we abruptly spin. The windshield cracked widely all around like a spider web shape. I couldn't imagine what the heck had happened, telling myself that this did not just happen now. I'm thrilled for what he had just caused by losing his arrogant temper. The brutal thing was remembering the body of that lady flying right onto the hood fatally. That second I was frozen like a statue, and all I could feel was my heart beating fast. I took off my seatbelt and walked out of the car seconds before my nephew Ray convinced us that we should just leave instantly. I told him we were surrounded by traffic now, and why would he act like this? I did remember a time his mother got so drunk and drive on her white sedan car into a neighbor's home and almost happened to run over a baby by an inch who was left right on the ground. This event brought all those memories back to him, reminding me of the way his mother was always acting like. What was even harsh about this event was that he actually damaged the lady severely bad, and she barely had any hope left alive. The whole time Ray was sitting in the driving seat shaking and nodding to himself, like he knew deeply that he had messed this up pretty bad for the rudeness of how he drove recklessly this way. He was appearing like he was lost when I reported to the ambulance. The police spoke to the both of us, but Ray tried to lie that it was a green light when they were coming towards the intersection. He was really a compulsive liar, as I said before. always flip-flopping to make him look good. When we got home, I told him that he needs to be a man of his word because it was coming to a point. I couldn't put it up for him to keep being paranoid like this, causing a mass of troubles lying around being a liar. Especially a greedy type of lying person. That whole night Ray and his father fought all night in a raging argument. Ray kept blaming everything that it, which led to his parents divorcing. Overnight again, his father attempted to kick him out of the house. But due to the fact I wanted him to listen before he had nowhere to go live. It wasn't until a few weeks later, when I had to fix my car after the wreck accident, Ray called me in the middle of my work time saying that he was going to come sleep over. When I got home around 11:30 p.m. at night, I found Ray sitting on my porch in a black polo shirt with torn knee jeans. He appears like a man who hasn't even showered for more than 3 months with such a bad odor for wearing the same old clothes. I remember Ray left to use the restroom and broke the shower door handle, which led to another argument all night again. His father attempted to kick him out of the house. But due to the fact I wanted him to listen before he had nowhere else to go stay. It wasn't until a few weeks later, when I had to fix my car up from the accident caused by Ray. Ray called me in the middle of my work time saying that he was going to come sleep over. When I got home around 11:30 p.m. at night, I found Ray sitting on my porch in a black polo shirt with torn knee jeans. He appears like a man who hasn't even showered for more than 3 months, with such a bad odor for wearing the same exact clothes he often wears everywhere he goes. His face was all squishy, like a paranoid person who wanted to do something extremely violent at the moment, like he was out of control. I let him in my house right away without questioning him a word that second, since he was my nephew. For the next whole hour after, I took a shower and organized my things. I returned to the living room and saw Ray sitting by himself like he had so much going on in his head. His hands were trembling, laying between his lap. I sat on the small one-seater couch right beside him. Ray was freaking me out like something bad must have eventually happened earlier in the day when I was still busy working. He just looked at me for a whole 10 seconds, like he was lost somewhere, and then looked back down, almost as if he was too afraid to share something. His socks were so dirty and had ripped spots around, like he hadn't taken it off for days. I asked him if he wanted to shower, but he told me he already did before he got here. I didn't believe him because of his odor, and not just because he apparently didn't even bring any pair of clothes to change at all, like he hadn't been taking care of his hygiene lately and became like this. He always was the type of kid who hated showering so much, and it wouldn't be wise to tell him off because he finds it offending. He would make a big deal out of it by defending himself. He knew I was going to ask him if he wanted to shower again. Then he tried to interrupt me by cutting me off to talk about the night of the accident. He told me that he's been seeing things lately. I was like, where is this coming from? So I tried to ask him about it. Ray said after that night he felt as if he was being followed home. Every day he sees a shadow coming after him like it was hunting him. He said it all eventually happened after the accident of that night he hit that lady. I told him he was just overstressing, becoming too paranoid to see things. He grabs me at my own risk and begs me, saying, please, 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 please. He gets down on his knees and holds his palms together, saying, please, 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 please. I told him I was going to call his father now and tell him everything that's going on. Ray refuses for me to call his father by saying his father was the meanest person Ray said earlier that Ray went home and his father came out of nowhere. When Ray was still sitting in the kitchen, he said Brandon came out of nowhere and all of a sudden just punched him right in the mouth for no reason. No reason, as he caused nothing to his own father to do that, which I had assured he never told the exact whole story to me. He was making very nonsense, saying his father was possessed by the lady he hit that night. I did take a look at his mouth, but it was just normal, and I told him I'll be talking to his father tomorrow. This made his face grow angrily red, like he wanted to say something bad to my face, which I never expected he would do something like this to me, when he knew I was the only one being by his side for many years after, since his mother left him and his father to another man. I didn't bother to say anymore because Ray was heated up. He has a big ego and only wants his way to be right. It was late, around 1 in the morning, then I left to sleep when Ray slept on my couch. Remembering clearly, I woke up to take a leak around a few hours later. After coming out of the bathroom, I can hear whispering coming from the living room, which was kind of freaking me out that second when I was making my way down the hall to the living room. As I get closer and closer, I can hear the whisper louder. Turns out Ray was sitting up on the couch sideways, facing the wall, talking to himself. I turn on the light switch and he then looks at me like he saw a ghost. His eyes were appearing in dark circles around, like he hadn't slept in days, but refusing to put himself to sleep. I asked what he was doing up so late sitting in the dark. He didn't answer me for a minute before saying, "I heard her voice." I kept telling him to stop acting like that and just go to sleep now because it was so late and he needed to rest. Ray stood there thinking something inside his head before laying back on the couch. I turned off the light, standing there for more than a minute or two. I didn't hear him say a word again before I walked back to the hall, heading back to my bedroom. The second I got onto my bed and was about to pull the blanket over my body, then a scream from the living room sounded like Ray was screaming terrifyingly. I got out of my bed and rushed to the living, wondering what was going on with him. When I got to the living room, Ray was standing by the corner, covering his face with his forearm, crying out, "Please, please, please, please." I was absolutely thrilled with what was going on that second and quickly turned on the lights. Ray begins screaming louder and falls with his leg onto the floor, covering his face, horrifying. I walked towards him and grabbed him on the forearm, trying to tell him it was only me. He almost didn't dare to face me and just cried, repeatedly saying the same thing over and over, "Please, please, please, please." It wasn't until a while he finally stopped, when I was totally frightened about what he got himself onto. Ray told me he saw her again, which I did think for a second he was referring to the woman he accidentally hit that day. Ray started bragging about how he was going to have his father Brendan leave all the fortune to him whenever Brendan dies. I knew he was acting nonsense, being too overstressed. I wanted so much to tell him off that he was such a greedy liar. He was so greedy and very much a compulsive liar, like his mother before him in the old days. Even though I have said it to him, it wouldn't matter much because he knows that I knew about every move he makes trying to lie his way to win. He kept on complaining and complaining about how his dad didn't love him, which I have known all along it wasn't true, because Brendan and his new girlfriend named Nancy mentioned Ray got upset 2 weeks ago and spit at Brendan's face over money fight. Ray was trying to take advantage of his father's girlfriend, who gave him $300 to buy something for himself and never did thank her for that. Nancy even says so too. At times, everyone knew Ray was becoming like his own mother. Whenever something happens, he plays the victim of the fight. I then left him in the living room because I was too tired. As time passes, I open my eyes when lying on the bed and see Ray walking back and forth on the hall, scratching his head with both arms, acting very strangely weird. That was something terrifying, seeing your own nephew acting rationally in an unstable manner. I wish I could ignore it, but I couldn't help seeing him becoming psychotic like this in my house. Ray was saying that he meant to hurt everyone. I heard him clearly saying he was careless of anyone at this point. He kept scratching his head and mentioned all he cares about is to live off freely in life when he has nothing to do to help others except himself. I got up and tried to tell him something as he burst out screaming, telling me that he'll never come back again. He ran out of my house and drove his white car away. Ever since then, I haven't seen him for such a long time. One day Brendan called me and told me something very terrible. He said Ray was arrested by the same intersection where he struck onto that woman. He was found talking to himself, trying to convince the other driver to hit him, but never initially happened. Upon that, he was sent to a mental hospital claiming that he was possessed by the lady he hit that night. I never had a chance to visit him and tried to live my life fulfilling through these days. What remains of my nightmare was that my car was the one Ray drove to hit that lady, and I have never forgotten how fast that scene had happened in my face.